One.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Mystery Tube. I'm Marty Hohn. I'm with TRPS, the Rock Poster Society out here in California. We are an all-volunteer nonprofit, if you don't know about us. We work with poster artists. We try and be a resource to fans, collectors, people everywhere who love this thing. And this is our seventh Mystery Tube. And we are really excited to have three of my personal favorite artists with us today. First, we've got Mark Arminski coming from Detroit, Steve Walters and Jay Ryan, both from Chicago. And welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So what are you guys doing to stay busy these days? There's been quite a bit of disruption for poster artists in the last year. I don't need to tell you. Quarantine's kind of changed everything, the whole game for everybody. How's it affected you guys?
Well, I was kind of gearing down on poster making anyhow a little bit, and I was painting more. So I'm just cranking out painting one after another, and I've done a couple poster jobs, but not like I used to. Kind of.
It really is.
Cut back. Who was that?
Hey, Pete and Pam, you guys need to sign out, please. You guys are on the wrong link.
Make me.
You're
Make me.
You're on the show.
Later.
So
they can answer my question.
We've been Zoom bombed.
Yeah. I personally been keeping real busy, just kind of organizing stuff and painting a lot. So
good, but so there's always something to do, right?
Oh yeah.
Steve?
Sometimes too much.
Yeah,
I seem busier now with COVID than I was before doing something.
That's good.
Well, I think I always found time to go out and socialize a little bit. Now you can't, so you got to fill that time with something.
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I was looking forward to like spending a lot of time making my own art, and I haven't done as much of that as I thought I was going to, but I've done some.
are you still doing are you doing many posters?
No, I mean, yeah, no, there's not that many jobs.
So
doing.
what
I mean,
are you doing? You know what I found? I couldn't figure out why granted, I'm doing a lot of artwork, but there just didn't seem to be enough time in the day to do stuff. It seemed like I'm busier than ever. But then I realized that I'm cooking my own meals and I don't have a dishwasher,
Right.
so I'm washing dishes. And I realized
Right.
how much time I spent going out and eating. You know,
Right.
so that you shoot 3 or 4 hours there. And I'm single. I don't have to cook for anybody else, but I cook now. So
yeah, I've been doing that too. Yeah.
you guys got families that that have to be fed. So, but yeah, I was surprised how much time that took each day.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I kind of converted my shop. I rented extra space upstairs for my shop and to print in, and I had a storefront. So my girlfriend and I decided we we're gonna like try to do a little gallery kind of store thing there and see how that went.
Are you doing that now?
Why not? Yeah. And it went well in December before Christmas. We have a lot of different local artists and stuff, like not just poster art, but all kinds of different stuff.
Now, most of the businesses in Chicago are shut down. Restaurants are still shut down, or are
Restaurants are opening back up.
Yeah.
A lot of
curbside pickup.
Right.
Yeah, we've always
Yeah,
had that. So.
Takeout. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if anybody can hear me.
yeah.
You're good.
I'm freezing up here.
There you go.
My connection is so bad.
It's intermittent, not like before. You'd freeze up, and this is kind of like intermittent a little bit.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I've been on Zoom. We were on Zoom all day. Everything was fine. No problem. I think it's when I try to connect to you guys, we had problems with our last meeting with this too. I don't know.
We can hear you okay.
Sorry, I'm lost everybody.
Oh, you don't hear us though, right? Or can you hear us?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because even when you were frozen, your audio was okay.
Yeah, I think we can hear you throughout.
Oh, okay.
You're frozen.
All right, I'm just going to plow ahead if anybody asks me anything.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep talking.
So what are you doing now? I'm going to play host.
I'm doing a lot of the same sort of stuff. Doing a lot of art prints. I'm doing a surprising number of concert posters, although they're scaled back. They're, living room things, Zoom concerts, stuff that's COVID appropriate. I had a couple of different Andrew Bird posters that were for online events. Other than that, it's just art prints and sort of public service announcement stuff aimed at current times. Focusing on trying to be responsible, stay at home, wash your hands, looking forward to hugging your friends in the future, sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Wear a fucking
I'm
mask.
also thankfully have had a nice. All I heard was Steve go fucking. Is it what?
I said wear a fucking mask.
Yeah.
I like that print.
I'm getting tired of not seeing.
Oh, there's that. Yes.
People that with the smile at you, frowning at you, or can't see what they're doing. No.
And then thankfully I've had a bunch of jobs fall into my lap that are things like wine labels. I'm working on 3 wine labels right now that are sort of the perfect client as far as art direction. The client came in with 6 or 8 of my prints and said, we want exactly this style, these colors, this type of cross hatching, and then here are the 3 different labels we want, and they need to be the first one is this concept, second one is this concept, third one is get this concept. And they've been very clear and really these great clients. So that's who I'm working with right now. I'm going to try and finish up some wine labels in the next couple of days.
Every time I do a commercial job, it seems to turn into a nightmare. It's just kind of, clients.
We've all had those.
Yeah.
We've all had those. I mean, this one in
of
front of us right now, this Andrew Bird print. Andrew plays an annual holiday event just a couple weeks before Christmas every year, usually here in Chicago. And this year he did it in a cornfield in Ohio, just outside of Los Angeles. And he had a new holiday record and wanted, he was pretty specific about wanting the artwork to be based on the cover of the record. So usually Andrew's very hands-off and very sort of laissez-faire about the artwork. In this particular case, he was pretty involved, which was nice. As far as having some opinions about colors and composition.
So you find you find that easier when they give you that much guidance?
Well, that's sort of unusual because I mean I've probably done more posters for Andrew Bird in the last 25 years than for any other individual band, and usually he's very, very hands off and very sort of trusts me to do my job. Every once in a while he'll come in with sort of a theme like, hey, can you do something based off of this record cover, or can you do something based off the new music video or whatever it is. This was unusually specific, but I think it was appropriate, an appropriate amount of art direction. Normally I'm like everybody else on this screen right now, and I sort of don't deal very well with art direction, but
there's a certain amount of art direction.
Some really nice client communication. So I'm pretty happy about that.
I pretty much stopped doing, I mean, not that I can afford to stop working.
Am I frozen again? I'm frozen.
We can hear you. But I got so frustrated with, 15 people want to say so on how you're doing a piece of art. And as a result, nobody's ever happy in the end. 15 people are dissatisfied. I'm dissatisfied with the art. So I pretty much try to shy away from that unless I'm getting so much money, which is very rare, that, I'll let them treat me the way they want to treat me. And I really don't care. But that's the rare job that comes by like that. So I think that's why I'm painting so much, is because nobody's telling me what to do. I do a painting. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. It doesn't bother me.
Have any of you been doing any band merch?
Yeah, I just finished a Bob Seger piece.
Oh, nice.
For a show that they considered his breakout show in 1972 with Heart. So his management had me do a piece to, just kind of merch. I really don't know what they're going to do with them. We only printed 100 of them. And I just finished that a short while ago. So I'm still doing stuff, but I've known those people since the 60s, the management and stuff. So they've always been real good to me and like what I do without too much. I've got some stories about some things where I had to I did an Iggy Pop piece where and it was the reunion show, the Stooges reunion show. The year the power, when we lost power on the whole East Coast, what was that?
I can't remember what year that was.
Yeah, 97 or something.
Yeah.
Maybe 2002. 2002 it was. So he was going to do the show, the reunion tour. So they wanted me to do a poster for that show, and they wanted to see a sketch of what I was going to do. And I knew it was going to lead into nightmares. But I've done so much stuff. So I finished the whole art. I got the art all completely done. And I put a piece of tracing paper over it and roughed in a marker sketch over the original art. So and submitted that to them, and they were fine with that. And I knew they were gonna be, but I would have given them the original art, they would have made me make changes. Let's see this, or we want to see that. So it just I tend not to do well. I like some direction, but I don't like, nitpicking and let's see this. What do you think about that? And it just.
Oh yeah, when you work by hand, I mean, they don't realize that it's not just making the logo bigger is a lot of work. It's like 2 or 3 hours of work maybe or more.
But your stuff, Jay, is pretty cut and dry because you got to illustrate straight of style that they know what they're getting. That's what you do. Your stuff, Steve, is kind of like mine. A lot of paste up stuff and
right.
Just so to change something is not so easy.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, yeah. I need a certain amount of art direction, but too much is a nightmare, and too little is also a nightmare. It's
I prefer.
And I can't describe what that correct amount is. So it's difficult. Yeah.
I like too little, and sometimes I'll drag it out and wait till there's like no time. Either you gotta take this, or there's no time to do it.
I think the right amount is when they take your first draft.
Yeah. But very few people, if you're dealing, what I found, a lot of the people that I started working with when I started doing this and working directly with the bands, they loved it. They pay me, they pull out their wallet and pay me in cash. They love what I did, never any question. I could just do it. I knew what my parameters were. But the bigger they got, the more management got involved. Then their merch people got involved.
Yeah.
And it just, for me at least, it started turning into a nightmare. And that's when I kind of went back and started doing local friends of mine who, they're going to appreciate what I do for them. They don't have the money,
right.
But, it's just less aggravation. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, merch is a big deal for bands now, and posters are a big part of their revenue. So
that's how it's changed for me since and I realized when I started doing them, and even I kind of fall between the old school guys and the new school guys. There was like Kozit, me, and Coop, and Lindsay. And Steve, you're almost right there. I mean,
almost, yeah. I mean, I hadn't heard of you guys when I started, but
I didn't know
you had started a few years before.
I didn't know Kozak or Coop, any of those guys when I started doing them. Hess,
yeah.
But
what year did you start?
I was doing flyers for Rob Tyner, who's in the MC5. I want to say in the late '80s or mid to late '80s. And he was kind of spiritually, he wouldn't say managed them, he was spiritually guiding a lot of local bands. So he'd have me do flyers for him. But then back then they were done to advertise the show and not for merch. Maybe they might sell some at the show, but now it's an altogether different ballgame. It's completely different.
Yeah.
I look at
But
Steve, you look at yours, you can see who the band is, you can see the date and the venue.
Right. Yeah. It was very utilitarian. I mean, it was about advertising the show. I mean, that's why I got into it, because I had friends in bands and I wanted people to come out and see them. And it was like,
now it's a huge piece of art. with a little line of type at the bottom. You know,
Right, yeah.
Chicago, Illinois, August 22nd, 3rd or something. So.
Yeah,
It's the whole- and I don't get it. I mean, I understand it, but how some of these posters are pulling in the money that they're doing is just. Yeah, see this, when I saw this, I wasn't sure. I never seen this style of yours.
oh, that's my early stuff. Yeah, I was just cutting the letters out of Ruby Lith.
Oh, wow.
You know, you just using whatever clip art I could find and
And
coloring
you
it
put
in.
256 of these?
Yes,
Four-
yes,
four-
I was making way too many. Yeah, yeah, I don't know why. Just because I could, because I was
Yeah,
like,
'cause
it
you
was
have-
like it was really early on, and I was like excited that I could make multiples. I just keep
What
going.
year is this?
Probably 92, 93.
Wow.
Oh, is it that early? Wow.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. I never put years on my posters, and yeah, people ask me what year it was, and I gotta guess.
I never did either. Or
I
did
do now.
Yeah, I started, but at first I didn't because that's the way that they did it in the 60s. And then for the year they put a date. Go get a
Mhm.
perpetual calendar if you want to know what year it is. But my perpetual calendar, match it up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never seen this one before either. This was cool.
Yeah. I was trying to channel the Haight-Ashbury guys and
Yeah, you did it.
yeah.
Good color. So that's a silk screen too?
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I do. Yeah.
Steve, were you doing silk screens before you started doing posters, like at any formal training or art school or just goofing
Oh
around?
no, I just bought a kit in an art store. I mean, before I started screen printing, I was doing like linoleum block posters and other prints. And I had a friend that put out a magazine called Speed Kills, and he wanted me to do 2,000 covers for his magazine.
Oh, geez.
And I started block printing those, and like 2 days into it, I figured it was going to take me about 12 years. So I went out and bought a speedball kit and finished up the job. And then I've just been doing screen print since then.
A speedball silk screen kit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
one of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
The screen's about like 12 by 10
Yeah.
by 12 or something. Yeah.
Yes.
A little
Yeah.
squeegee that's about 6 inches
Oh,
long.
those awful squeegees. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible plastic crap. Yeah.
Now you know what those are probably worth now to collectors?
I think
They're
they
still making
sell
them.
Yeah, I think
They
are.
do?
Yeah.
Are they the same?
I don't know, to be honest.
I've
I
seen the
probably,
squeegees by themselves at Blick.
Wow. No.
So Steve, when did you stop cutting Ruby Lith and move on to doing
2
films?
o'clock.
No, I still cut Ruby Lith.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the key line is usually I got this stamp border kind of style now. So that's printed out, and I usually just go to Kinko's and print that out on paper and take baby oil to it to make it transparent, and then cut Ruby for the colors.
Now, let me ask you, because I'm curious, the process really interests me, how each artist does things a little bit differently. Do you do your black line, I'm assuming you print light to dark color when you're printing.
Usually, yeah,
And the black is usually your last color, and then it ends
Right.
up wrapping everything.
right,
So do you do the black line art first and then cut your rubies to that?
right.
Okay.
Jay, when you work, your style is so much more. You're much more of an illustrator than a.
Cut out. I'm sorry, Marty. You've cut out, or I've cut out. I'm sorry.
You're there. Now you're
Yeah,
back.
just to tell everyone, we're having a few technical difficulties in Chicago. It could be the freezing cold.
We're getting snow right now. I'm sorry. We've been on Zoom all day and it hasn't been a problem. Anyway,
Maybe you overstayed your welcome on Zoom.
that's very possible.
I wanted to ask you, Jay. Your style is different than Steve's or Mark's quite a bit. You're more of an illustrator. I really, and I'm assuming it all kind of starts with pen and ink. What's your process?
It's pencil most of the time. Pencil on paper, usually drawn about quarter size. So for this 18 by 24 Jesus lizard poster here, the original is probably about 9 by 12.
Can I interrupt you with the question?
Please do.
Did you ink it after that, or do you work right with the pencil? Is this inked?
I don't remember this one in particular. This very well could just be pencil.
Oh, wow.
And I worked for years when I was working with Steve at Screwball. We'd head over to the Kinko's on North Avenue and just take the pencil drawings and photocopy them up onto overhead transparencies. So you're over there doing that, and the machine next to you's got Chris Ware, and then behind you is Wesley Willis headbutting everybody as they come into the Kinko's.
That's funny.
And then
Kinko's should have done a documentary. Same thing with Kinko's here in Detroit. I'd be down there. All the midnight shift had day jobs at Nor Leather where I was doing the ads. And then they'd be at Kinko's working the midnight shift, doing all their fancies. They worked there, but they were making all their fancies. So Kinko's should do a dodocumentary on the artists.
Yeah. All the employees that have gone on to things. Yeah. But aside from starting with drawings that I've made, like the process is very similar to Steve's as far as for everything that we've seen up to this point. It's just hand cut ruby lith, and layers. I think I do a lot of layering and getting secondary colors that a lot of people would probably prefer to be picky about. I'm more like not too picky about what color the squirrel driving the forklift is, because I'm getting a secondary color with this silver printed on top of that maroon or whatever it is.
How many color is this?
This one is oddly, it's a crazy number of colors. It's something like 15.
Oh, wow.
Because or is it 9? I don't have it in top.
That many?
It's a large number because it was treated as a bunch of different small print areas. So and they're all references to Pavement lyrics, but the central image is something like 4 different print areas with their own sets of colors. Our friend Damon Beal comments that it's 15 colors. So Damon is on the payroll here tonight as far as being my personal fact checker. And I appreciate him very much. He's out in Boston. And I'm sure everybody already knows him and I don't need to introduce him. But 15 screens. What the hell was I thinking doing 15 screens? I don't know. I was excited to get to do a Pavement poster because they'd been broken up for about a decade by the time I got to do this for their getting back together in 2010. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, color-wise, yeah, just
oh yeah, here we go. Shellac, again, I don't remember the exact number of colors. I'm gonna ballpark it around 6 maybe. Shellac said they were going back to Australia. They hadn't been there in quite a while, and they said you can do whatever you want, but maybe have some local flora, some local animals. And last time we were there, we saw this monument called a dog on a tucker box. And so if you imagine like somebody wrote a poem in like 1830 about a miner way out in the countryside, or in the outback, I guess they call it in Australia, who dies in the mine, and his dog sits on his tucker box, which is Australian for lunchbox, and sits on his tucker box loyally, and I think eventually dies or something like that. But it's a poem about loyalty to the miner who's underground dead. But there's this monument way out in the middle of nowhere. And so they said, could you incorporate that? I was also doing a lot of shellac posters that had astronauts. So then we made, of course, the dog into an astronaut on the tucker box on the monument. But the tucker box is also one of Shellac's signature amplifiers. And then you've got a whole bunch of platypodes, which is the plural of platypus, a bunch of Tasmanian devils, for some reason destroying a snare drum, and one's wearing a top hat. I'm not sure why. And then you got 2 drop bears, which are carnivorous koala bears. They don't tell anybody about until you get there. And then, that was that poster. They worked. The band got to Australia, so the posters worked. Is everybody angry at me now?
No.
Oh.
Not yet.
And I think this is a good example of layering colors that we were talking about before, as far as basically every physical object from the Moonrise Kingdom movie that plays some sort of even minor plot point in the movie from the raccoon fur hat to the binoculars and the bugle and I don't even remember what some of this is, but it's sort of, I think this is a case of trying to do something that's instantly recognizable without being the most obvious thing to pull from a movie. And that's one of the things I try to do for movie posters, is try to do, not the number one first most obvious object or scene from a movie, but instead something that's really secondary and yet still totally recognizable, having to do with the overall plot.
Jake, let me ask you a question about
So,
that. I've never
the Moonrise Kingdom sort of scout badge sewn onto the poster there.
Jay? Jay, oh,
Yeah, there we are.
oh, okay, I've got a question for you. I've never done a music poster, I mean, a movie poster.
You've done music posters.
Movie poster,
Oh, okay.
specifically because, although I can't talk about this, I'm well aware a legal issue involves in a lot of this stuff, and I could never figure out, once you guys started doing movie posters, where you got permission to do them, and how no one ever had any problems doing them, especially with the caliber of, I mean, bands are different.
Well, I mean, it's the same.
Are they?
Well,
No, I mean,
I guess maybe, yeah, maybe they're not.
well, no, they're bands are, in both.
We know you got some war stories there, Mark.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But so did you get, if somebody, who would approach you to do a movie poster?
Most of the time, most of the posters that I've done are through a group in now based in Austin called Mondo. Mondo sort of created this market, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, as far as securing rights to make merch for pre-existing movies. Classic movies where they were going to be screened at the Alamo Drafthouse theaters, and they would get
Who did they get the permission from?
the rights to make an event poster for a screening of A Christmas Story or 2001 or whatever, and make a limited number of prints that were approved. The rights were acquired from the movie makers or whoever owned the IP, and they were approved. And so they sort of built a history of doing that. And now they've blown up into this huge situation that everybody on this chat or this discussion probably already knows about.
I don't know anything about this.
Okay. But they've become sort of, a very successful business as far as creating merch for movies.
But everybody's covered. You guys are covered. The artists are.
Yes, we're being contracted by Mondo, which is different from some other times you see galleries that have tribute shows to this, that, or the other director or some movie or some cultural figure. And my experience has been that most of those are not approved by whatever the subject is.
Right.
So yeah, in this weird case right here, I actually was in a weird situation where I actually knew John Hughes from my band doing soundtrack work for a movie he was producing in the mid-90s. So I got to do 4 different John Hughes posters. This is these were technically, this was an exception in that Mondo never technically got approval for these, and yet I approached John directly, Mr. Hughes directly, and he basically said, like, oh, politely didn't say directly to me at this point, but politely turn a blind eye and make sure I get copies of these. And it's got, I think it's this one. One of them's hanging up in the house. Anyway.
I always wondered about that when people started doing these and posting them. I thought, geez, how does somebody not get called on it?
Yeah, I'm sure that there are people who do get called, but the ones done through Mondo specifically are official. They're licensed. There's approval processes with whatever movie studio. I've also been contacted directly by movie studios like CBS
Oop, now we lost you there.
Dang it. Well,
Want me to finish? Now he gets contacted by Studio CBS. Okay, I'm gonna go take a nap. I'm gonna go get a drink. I think that's what he was gonna finish saying. Wait, oh, you know what? I bet he's rebooting now. He did get a drink. What?
There he is.
I said, I finished your sentence for you while you were frozen, and I
What
said,
sentence? Where'd I get cut off?
yeah. Well, I finished your statement for you.
Okay.
Yeah, he said you got contacted by CBS, and then you were gonna just go get a drink, and then you came back and get a drink.
When you guys first
Cut off again.
started making, when you first started making posters, who influenced that?
Well, I actually, I'll try to make this short because as long as, and I think I told you this at some point, Marty. My cousin, Dave Homich, used to be with the family dog. He's from Michigan. He and Mouse were friends here in Michigan, and then he went to Europe. Mouse went to California, and then Dave went out to California after going to France, and he actually owned the truck. And Professor Poster said some woman owned the dog, but my understanding was that David owned the dog, my cousin. So he sent me a stack of posters. I can remember opening them. They were wrapped in newsprint. And it had to have been 67, 68. I was still living at home. My mom goes, "There's a package from David for you." And I go down home. They're family dog posters, all first printings, like a pile that thick. There had to have been like 40 of them in there. And I could just remember thinking how cool these are. And just the colors on them were just, and I think that always kind of stuck with me. And then when I started doing stuff for Tyner, we were just doing flyers. And that was the punk era where everybody was just, Xerox and flyers, pasting stuff down and markering these flyers for punk bands and stuff. And I kind of approached a friend of mine and said, wouldn't it be cool to start doing colored concert posters again? And I hooked up with a silk screener and we started, this was, I actually had 92, but I couldn't find the original artwork for it. But this was a ghetto press where we were printing. So it just kind of, it started doing local radio station, their gigs and local bands. And we would just do anything. And we played a lot. This has a blend. This one is actually just, and we actually printed the white. I got a cream color paper and I wanted to print the white instead of use white paper and do it the other way, just to see what happened. And we used to do this thing called marbleizing where Chris would be running the press, even though they're done by hand, but you use a press, but the paper's fed in by hand and it's pulled out by hand and you got to put it in. And I had a palette of different color inks just squirted all over it. And you put the base color in the screen. And then I had this thing called a dauber I made. And it was just a toilet tube with a piece of cardboard taped on the end of it. And I would just go pick up ink and then smear it all over the screen. And then we'd run it. And so we'd get this kind of marbleizing effect. So we were doing that back in the 90s. And we didn't do it a whole lot because you'd end up with a pool of brown ink.
Right.
Everything would go, whatever colors you put in there. And it was such ugly brown, we very rarely used it for anything else. So, but yeah. I lost a couple pieces. They're in a box somewhere. It came off, but yeah, it's all hand done. Like
Hey,
Steve said,
who influenced you? Who got you excited about maybe trying to be a poster artist?
who, me or
Jay.
Jay?
When I was in school, I started seeing posters for bands that I listened to, and they were all drawn by this guy who obviously had looked at a bunch of Egon Schiele and figures, and I later learned it was Derek Hess. And so I was seeing Hess when I was still in school. I finished school in '94, and then I was doing a bunch of freelance illustrations. And the friends that I was working with at this little design firm called Ohio Girl Company, they had a big coupe poster in their space. I noticed that it was a misprint, but it was up in their space. It was really bright and really large. And then through those guys at Ohio Girl, I stumbled into working with Steve over at Screwball, and that's how I met Steve fall of '95. But as I was getting into it, it was Hess and Chantry, and I was aware of Mark, I was aware of Lindsay, I was aware of Kozik, I was aware of Jeff Kleinsmith, but these were, there's just images I'd see in magazines. I wasn't traveling I didn't know any of these people. There was no internet. You just sort of occasionally see an image in a magazine or an article somewhere. But those were the guys that I was looking at as I was getting into it. I was also heavily influenced at that point by like David Carson, coming from like Trans World Skateboarding Magazine, Von Oliver, and all the 4AD album covers. What else some of the obvious stuff I'm forgetting. And then stuff sort of outside the concert poster world. Like there was a German printmaker named Horst Janssen that was working in the 70s, 80s, and 90s near Hamburg. And he was doing etchings. His etchings were cool, but he'd make these posters for his exhibits of etchings, and the posters for his etchings, or the posters for his gallery exhibits, were amazing. And I got a book of those at one point, and that was sort of like a lightning bolt experience that I've still like looking for getting that sort of experience again. But yeah, I'd say as I was getting into it, that was a lot of my main influences. And then of course, just the process itself and the way that Steve Walters and Bob Hartzell and the rest of the crew.
We'll give him a minute. Steve, how about you? Who were you looking at when you first started? You were like early 90s.
Right. Yeah. The first stuff I remember seeing in person was Kozik stuff. There's a guy that had a gallery in Chicago that did a show with Kozik, and yeah, I mean that actually seeing the stuff in person, you could see like how stuff was trapped. Like, I've been doing T-shirts before, which is a different process. You got a carousel and the shirt doesn't move, whereas posters, you do one color and then go back and do the next color. And I couldn't conceive of how you could line up colors like that. But actually seeing them in person, you could see there were blocks of colors behind the black and stuff. So yeah, I mean, he was my main influence, I guess.
So did you just self-teach yourself how to silkscreen?
Oh yeah, it was all from the Speedball kit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How much do you guys rely on computers now?
I do some typesetting on it.
Me at this, sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
No, that's about it for me. Yeah.
At this point, it started with a slippery slope maybe 10 years ago, and have gotten to the point where I'm still drawing, completely doing my drawings by hand on paper and then scanning them in, and a lot of the time doing the separations in Photoshop, treating it very much the same way that I would if I was cutting rubylith, but just with my thumb on the trackpad instead. Just doing separations. Okay, this is the blue layer and this is the yellow layer. But I can save time that way. I can make work that's a little more precise. I also do still cut rubylith, but just not as much as I used to.
I'm pretty much, when I have I'll do like Jay, I'll do an illustration or a headline or something, then scan it in and then piece it together. I'm still using Photoshop 4 or something, I think, but it's enough to get me for what I need. But I do so few. I think that Seeger piece was all done on computer. They had a photograph they wanted to use, but I treated it as though it was a silkscreen. I did it in layers, just like you would a silkscreen, and put the colors together.
Right.
But yeah, most computer, but I'm not doing that much. I mean, like I said, I'm painting a lot, so.
You used a computer to get all your colors worked out ahead of time.
Yeah,
Play around with it.
yeah, and then I assign, I maybe even do my layers in black and then assign the color to that. So, and sometimes I in the past I've even taken it where you can make a color a little transparent, so you actually see a trap. I actually do put a trap, although I don't need it. If it's done on computer, you can get it exact. But I'll put a little trap line in there just to make it look like a computer. The only way you can tell it's not computer is usually the paper it's on. The silkscreen inks are just much more vibrant. It's just so more colorful. You just can't get that with a digital.
Saturation, yeah.
Yeah, a lithograph. So, but I try to make it look like a silk. You have people that want it to look like a silkscreen, but they don't want to pay you. To do that. So you say, well, here's the other option. I could kind of make it look like a silk screen, but you're not going to get those colors. Because I have a guy now, when I do need a silk screen, well, I'm in between guys now. And that's one thing I found. When you're there printing your own, if you got to make a quick change, a color change, or just add, you can do it. When it reached the point where I couldn't, SFNA, we had to shut that down, Ghetto shut down. I was printing stuff by myself on a little tabletop thing. That's where bookkeeper Dave came in. Oh, I didn't show you, Jay. I found a poster by Dave, the bookkeeper. We're still trying to figure out who he is, but if I wasn't there to make those last minute changes, a lot of times it just wouldn't come out the way I wanted it. They don't, or else they'd make a change for me. Yeah, this was an interesting piece. I actually made the paper in the background. I collaged and then we ran some blueprint paper. So it's on blueprint paper.
Oh, wow.
I have a couple that I purposely kind of laid in the sun from time to time, and it kind of alters the blue, kind of turns to a dull yellow a little bit. And, do you guys know Jim Gibson? Steve,
I
did
don't
you
think so. No. From where?
This was one that I wasn't there to print. Now, we discussed the imagery, and supposedly this date, October 15th, was they had a race between these horses, and the winning horse or the losing horse, they cut its head off and offered it up to the god Mars for the god of war. So Patty was telling me all the symbolism behind that date. And this was the very last show that played at CBGB's. That they closed it after that night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got to go, and I mean, there were so many people there that I saw people that I've only seen in videos. I could tell you who they were, but I kind of, because I know how guest lists can be, and I was going to be on the guest list for the band, and I wanted to make sure that it didn't get lost or so I parked myself under the awning right by the front door, and I heard a bunch of people all afternoon go, well, we're friends with so-and-so, too bad, go away, we're not late. So they were being really tight about who they were letting in there. I think because how many people they wanted in there. And there were news crews from around the world. There were people shooting films or documentaries. And at one point I realized, geez, I'm going to be in all of these pictures and films because, I'm standing by the front door. So my buddy Jim, who I got into the show too, he had Noiseville Records in New York. And he went to a gallery show of photographs from that evening in New York, and he goes, you're in a bunch of the photographs, plus they put out a catalog of the photographs, and you're on the cover of this book. So I bought one of just having my collection, but it was an unbelievable show. It was really a good show. MC5, I've always been a huge MC5 fan.
Yeah.
This is for the film that never got. I think they finally, all the court issues are finally over with, and I think, but nobody's picking it up. But it's a great film. If you ever get a chance, if you know anybody's got a bootleg copy of it or something, it's just a real good.
It's actually, I think it's on YouTube. I think that's where I saw it.
Yeah, because I think they finally made some judgments on who has what. What'd you think of it, Marty?
No, I thought it was fun. Great.
I like the,
The
I never,
footage is awesome.
yeah, the footage, and plus what happened to the band, like in their later years when the heroin kind of got into it, the egos and just the craziness, and they played in Holland or one of those Nordic countries, and as the MC5, except there were only 2 original members and 2 other guys that I don't know. It's just a good film. If you get a chance to see it, you should see it.
Yeah, I was surprised how well documented that era was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Steve, this is a really interesting concept here. Where did you get this idea of like crowding a bunch of people around?
I don't know. It just came to me. I mean, yeah, but Red Meat was one of my first regular clients, and they kind of felt like my Velvet Underground to Andy Warhol kind of thing, and they really brought out the best of me overall as a designer, I think. But yeah, I mean, Red Meat and Caliphone it's all Tim Rutilli's band, and so yeah, I just thought it was a Beatles, Sgt. Pepper kind of situation at that show as a reunion thing. So it made sense to me, and yeah, Tim suggested a bunch of the people in the background. And
It's a pretty cool piece.
But yeah, I mean, that was all put together with scissors and glue sticks, and then I took a picture of it with my phone and did like a CMYK.
Do you have that guitar?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah, you silkscreen that.
yeah.
Wow.
That's all I know how to do, Mark.
Yeah, I know, but it's hard to do CMYK.
It's this. I mean, if
I know you do it pretty
the
well.
dots are big enough, it's not as hard as it seems.
Now, Sherwood, so we did one that you can't tell. You can't, but Sherwood knew what he was doing. This was the printer that I partnered with, SFNA, and he said you don't use a round dot, you use a oval dot.
Right. Yeah.
Because it works better for
I've
something.
heard that. Yeah.
So he knew all that stuff.
Yeah.
We used to print Hess's stuff there. We printed Emmett's
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we printed. I know because Jay mentioned Hess, but we did a lot of his pieces early on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember seeing it. Yeah, and all his stuff. Yeah.
What's for each of you? What's the hardest poster you ever had to do?
Ooh.
Taking some audience questions here.
Artist.
Hardest technically.
The hardest thing for whatever reason.
I think the control, when somebody hires you because they like your style, and then they kept, like we talked a little bit earlier. I don't know if you were on camera about, make this. Let's just see what this looks like if you do this. Well, the art's done by hand. You know how long
I don't do that. Yeah. Right.
And so those are the ones for me that are hard. And ultimately, what happens is I lose interest in it. And so then I'll do whatever they want me to do just to get it over with and done. And then nobody's happy with it in the end.
Right.
Those are the hard ones for me. But
Absolutely. It's like, I love exactly what you do, except for everything you've just done. So
yeah.
let's let me second guess everything.
I still have a cutout of a comic from the Chicago Reader that is like 2 guys standing there facing each other. One guy's holding a piece of paper and saying, "I love everything you've ever done except for this piece of crap you did with what they started paying you."
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many like that. I mean,
A couple of years ago, I did a piece for Kid Rock. He was playing 10 dates at Pine Knob up here, one after in a row, and they wanted. And when he kind of was getting going, and I was at Ghetto, he was one of the guys that he loved everything I did. He'd pull his wallet out, pay me cash for everything, and he was just real happy. Well, and I'd done a couple things in between, which always went real well because his managers were the same managers at that time that Seeger had. So I knew them and they knew me. Well, this last thing, they wanted 10 posters, one for each date. And they were willing to pay me less than he paid me for one poster 15 years prior to this. And I said, you know, that ain't gonna work. So I said, why don't you do one poster with 10 dates on it and sell it as a merchandise piece? And this was 4 months before the shows were gonna start. And I said, and I want, so we agreed upon a price. It was more than they were willing to pay me, but a little less than I wanted to take. But I figure it's for Bob, and we have a relationship. So I said, because I don't know you guys and I'm not doing the thing, I want half of my money up front. Before I even think about lifting up a pencil or anything, I want half my money. And so they said, okay, that's no problem, we'll send it to you. So I want to say 6 weeks go by and they call me up and they go, how are the sketches coming for this poster? And I go, well, how's that check coming, man? You know, I haven't gotten it yet. And they said, oh yeah, we'll get it out to you. So 2 more weeks go by. So finally they called, want to know where I was. I said, I haven't got my check. And I said, I can tell you exactly where this is going. And I said, I'm going to call Bob so that he understands that this isn't my fault. And once I said that, I had a check for the full amount the very next day. They sent me, but the piece, they were just such a headache that with changes and back and forth and this and that, it came down to the point where I said, you know, you've got to make a decision for me. And I've got to get this to the printer right away and I'll drive it up there because there's not time for, you know, to even waste it. They still don't make it. So the piece never got done, never got finished. I did twice as many comps for them as I was supposed to do, but I got paid for it, which is a shame because it was a nice piece. I was happy with it, but it never got done. This was my homage to the Zigzag Big Brother piece, kind of. I kind of like do these like things, but I was thinking of Mouse and Kelly when I did that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks. I kept seeing 311 and Zigzag. Just yeah. See, now I used a lot of halftones. These, though, you know, where some people overlay colors, they use transparent inks and they'll pick up colors that way. I like really opaque colors, and I would put halftones in them. I'd get a Zipatone. You guys know what that is.
Yeah.
And because I didn't want to spend the money on it.
Yeah.
Well, I buy one sheet and then make Xeroxes of it.
Yeah.
So I'm not spend because some gets expensive, and I used a lot of it. So I put it on a light table and cut the, you know, glue it down to my plastic. The Zipatone.
For us civilians, what is Zipatone?
Zipatone is like, well, type used to come on a sheet called Letraset, and it was a like about 11 by 8 sheet of
Plastic that's got
with letters that reverse on the back side. So you can buy different kind of fonts and different sizes, and then you rub it off on where you want it. Like you'd have to line it up and rub off each letter singly. So Zipatone was kind of like the same thing. They had all these different textures and shapes. And see all these dots in State Theater? There's purple dots in there.
Yeah.
So Zipatone is pretty much the same thing, except it had an adhesive on it. So you lay it down there and trim it out. And the excess, you trim it out around the letters. And so all of this, doing it this way was labor intensive. It took a lot of time because, so that's what Letraset and Zipatone. Zipatone was sheets with different kind of like patterns and designs and things that you could like this was, I don't think that was one, but I'd look for books and I'd cut it all on paper. I'd make Xeroxes and cut it all on paper.
So do you put the textures directly on the original artwork, or
Yeah.
have you ever put it right onto the Rubylith to add?
Yes, I did. Like well, that's a blend, but this is Zipatone. These kind of shades, and I played with those a lot. To me, the whole silkscreen thing was like a huge experiment. Everyone I approached is like I tried different colors, I tried different patterns, different shapes, you know, just to see. So I got to know a lot of times when you get to the second, and once you lay down one color and the second color next to it, it changes that first color. It gives it a different hue or value, and then you put the third color, and then you think, it really looks like shit, and then you put the black trim on, and everything looks fine. I learned that the black, if you put the black down, this was all pretty much straight color, except in the face. And with that, I would just take the photograph and I'd run it through a Xerox with different. You can kind of adjust the amount of toner that went into it, so you could get it darker or lighter. You hit the lighter or darker.
So guys, before we go any farther, do we want to do a couple of giveaways for our audience here?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
I got a book. Actually, Marty was supposed to, somebody approached me at the second flat stock in Austin. It was the first one they had in Austin. The first flat stock was in San Francisco. The second was in Austin. And they wanted to do a book. And I kind of felt I hadn't done enough yet, and I just didn't feel, and plus I realized if I let somebody else do a book, they're going to do it the way they want it because they're putting the money into it, they're publishing it. So I took my time and I did a book of my art the way I wanted it. It's kind of a little history of my poster, how I got into it and what was going on in Detroit. I had each person that has like a section kind of writes a little preface of not of my art, but of what they were doing, how we hooked up and what we did. Like Ghetto Press has a section, Vinny from Sponge, I used to do a lot of stuff for Vinny. So I've got one of these books and there's like, it's all full color, 140 some pages. And I'll sign it. And like I said, it's a little history of me being in Detroit and doing, and I used to do ads for, Nor Leather. That's how I met Chris at Ghetto Press. And I kind of consider these like my predecessors to posters. Keith would give me a photograph and want me to hand letter on it. And I would kind of like fill in the space like you would a psychedelic poster. I don't know if there's any of those. Yeah, this is one I hand doodled. I had a couple of those at one of the TRPS shows. Now, see, this was done on computer digitally, but I tried to make it. I used the halftones and stuff to try to make it look like a silkscreen. So for the first giveaway, I got one of those.
All right, folks. Anybody wants to win Mark's book? Go to your chat at the bottom of your screen and type in Mark.
Now, Marty, what we do on our show, if we got two people that want something, we came up with a wheel of fairness. This is hilarious. We made this wheel and we make it pick a number and we spin it. Whatever number comes up.
Actually, Nick picks one at random for us, but we'll get him one of those. I'm sure it'll look great in his living room.
What's that? A wheel of fairness?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I use that clown on a lot of stuff. I started using it at shows. I kind of made these banners and I used the clown. Actually, on the cover of the book, I use this clown. So I actually made a clock for the show that instead of a cigar, now they legalized pot in Michigan. I don't know where California is. They should legalize it everywhere. But he's smoking a joint, and the joint is actually the minute hand, so it goes around, and the hour one is a regular hand, and then the second hand. But
all right, we've got a winner of the book. It's Eddie Zaragoza. Eddie.
Oh, I know Eddie.
You know Eddie? Good.
He's out your way. He's in. I don't know Eddie. I've never met him, but I know he watches the show. And,
it's rigged.
Yeah. You know Eddie?
No.
I don't.
ERA.
Yeah. I don't. I might buy side if he's a Bay Area guy and he comes to our shows.
He probably does. He's
see a lot of familiar faces.
Yeah.
Don't always get names to put to him, but Eddie, if you're watching, email us at mysterytube trps.org. And give us your address and your info, and we'll get you your prize.
Thanks, Eddie. I have a few other things too, poster wise, but I'll let these guys.
Anybody else want to do something?
You gonna do it all at once, or?
Yeah, we'll do a couple. We'll do a couple now.
Anyway, Jay, you give away the dog?
We'll do this one.
Oh.
You know what? That's Steve. That's where I first got into your work. That is at the front doorway of John Cusack's apartment in the movie High Fidelity.
Right, yeah,
Every time he walks in the front door,
yeah.
you see that poster front and center, and then his LP shelves and everything. But that poster just, I was so floored when I finally ran into you at one of Paul. I've told you this, at one of Paul Imagine shows in Sacramento. I
Right.
saw that poster staring at me that I've been looking for a couple of years. And how did you connect to the people who made that movie? Because there are a bunch of your posters in it.
Jesus Christ, they called me up back when there were phones, and they sounded like college kids. They're like, we're making this movie about a guy who works in a record store, and we don't really have a budget for props. So I sent them a bunch of like half-ass crappy posters and didn't think again about it. And then they called me back and said, can we get some better posters? Okay, so I gave them some better posters, and then suddenly it's this movie that, yeah, with John Cusack, but yeah, it was just, yeah, they just called me out of the blue. Yeah. But it's been a good reference point for people.
Good for business.
Yeah. Good. No, I don't feel like I got ripped off or anything.
That is a great poster. Yeah, we've already got people typing in Steve, I see.
And this is a reprint, by the way, just to make sure. It's got a gold, like metallic gold instead of the original yellow on it. But I'll sign it. I'll personalize it if you want.
I've got that poster. I love it. In fact, it's on my short list for framing. Okay, whoever wants the Steve's pavement poster, type in screwball. There we go. And Nick will spin his board at home, his clown board or whatever.
Wheel of Fairness.
Wheel of Fairness. I'm thinking that if everybody had one of those at home, wouldn't that like promote domestic tranquility or something?
Well, and I said I'm going to start
like who does the dishes kind of deal.
It
I'm
wouldn't
gonna make my life, my daily decisions by this wheel.
It would increase the murder rate by 50%.
Yeah.
It's like the Magic 8 Ball, only this tall.
Well, I got a couple quarters taped to the back that I move around every once in a while.
All right, let's see.
I got a set of books, if anybody'd like a trio of my books.
How many books do you have out now, Jay? I've got 2 of them. I collect books. I like books.
Do
you have a book?
Steve?
No, I don't have a book.
Is there a book of your work?
No.
Oh.
Well, you got your next COVID project then.
Oh, right. Yeah. A few months left. Yeah.
So Jay, what do we got?
We've got Animals and Objects in and Out of Water, which was my second book that collects stuff from 2006 through 2008, as you can see on the screen. The first one was 100 posters, 134 squirrels, which is, as you can tell, I really like honesty in the titles of these things. That's the actual contents. The best part was deciding I was going to do select 100 posters from the first decade of doing this kind of work. And then the publisher's wife actually ended up going through and creating the, what's it called at the end of the book? The index at the end of the book,
where, it's like whales, page 35 and 73, and monkeys holding a boombox, monkeys, page 15, monkeys holding a boombox, page 17, and that sort of thing. And she counted the squirrels in the book. There were 134 squirrels. So we decided that was an appropriate title for that. And then I don't know if you've got an image for my third book, which came out about 5 years ago at this point, called No One Told Me Not to Do This. And that's continuing like these, sort of collecting my favorite bunch of prints from the area, from like 2009 to 2015. So they're all published by Akashic Books out of New York, who is typically and there's a coloring book put together by Gerald Tidwell. You know what, we'll put one of those in there as well. We'll do a set of, hold on a second here. I just realized one of the problems. We'll put all 4 of those books together as a package here.
Oh,
And
You're a library with that, man.
and the for anybody who yeah, so is that acceptable to you, Mr. Hohn?
you want to do a 4-book package? Somebody's going to have a second Christmas here.
We're going to do a 4-book package.
All right. All right. To any lucky winner who types in J.
I think 4-book package.
Literally nobody.
I don't know if you can see the screen I'm seeing, but it's scrolling here like crazy. Someone just typed in the letter J. I like that.
Trying to see if there's any, yeah.
All right, that's what a
Hold on a second.
great prize. So we've got a winner for Steve's pavement poster, Brian Greaves.
Now, Brian is who's, oh, Jay, you said you had your buddy in Austin who kind of is your arc, or gives you they gave the numbers of the colors in that one print. I remember I asked how many colors that was.
Oh, yeah. No, that's Damon is out in Boston. He's
you called, what did you call him?
I figured he's a good fact checker for everybody here. Everybody
Brian,
knows Damon Beal.
Brian, who's on your show regular, Marty, and won something last week, also watches our show.
I thought that was a familiar name.
Yeah, every time we say something, Brian's got the answer to it, and no matter how obscure. And so I'm thinking we should hire him as a fact checker, because he, but I think he's just real quick with Wikipedia or one of those kind of things. He's got the answers all the time. No.
All right. Well, the book winner, Jay's Books, is Todd Hinton, who I know is a regular listener and has been weighing in. Todd, congratulations, and Brian, congratulations. Shoot us an email at mysterytube@trps.org.
Well, are we going to be talking much more? I got a couple other things. I just don't feel like putting them back in the package. I had them out. Well, how long have we been on?
We could, until somebody has to like really go to the bathroom or something. We're cool.
Yeah.
Why do we have to stop for that?
I had that. I had that Patty Smith post.
I don't know how close you've been watching Steve, but
How bad do I want to be single?
Let me just do this. And I had that Patty Smith poster that you posted.
ooh, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It's on a metallic paper.
Wow.
See, this is one of the things I didn't like. They were using, what are these kind of plastisol inks?
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't like it. It was a printer that I had to use, and he kind of, because I don't know why he used them. They were easier for him and stuff. He ran it through a dryer to heat dry each color. So it's really kind of glossy and shiny, but it is a silkscreen. You can see the separations.
I did a few like that at the very beginning because I was doing t-shirts and I was terrified of using water-based inks.
Did you like it?
I was afraid. No, it was terrible. No,
He was just trying to share as much cancer as he could with the world.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, That's why Sherwood had to quit, because he's recovered fine. He sold the business as soon as the doctors told him, but they said, get away from these solvent-based inks because your liver enzymes are way, way high. And so he sold the business right away, but he'd been around those solvents and fumes and stuff forever.
Yeah.
Not
Terrible
good.
stuff.
That's why I paint now. I use aqua oils, which is kind of a oxymoron, but most paint companies will make them, but they're a mixture. You can mix water-based stuff with them, or you can mix solvent-based stuff with them. And I use all water cleanup. I don't use solvents anymore. And they're
Good.
nice. They're way better than acrylics or even oil. I got to know how to use them. So
Yeah.
So anyhow, I've got that poster. That's
Steve, do you still do t-shirts at Screwball?
I started, I started doing a few here and there with the COVID stuff because just to make money however I can. But I don't want to get back into it full time. But
Ron's a little social butterfly.
Yeah.
what was that?
I'm not sure.
You got somebody on the table in front of you there, Jay?
I'm not sure I want to know.
It's not me.
Let's see. Okay, Todd Hinden has asked again for the email for you, for Brian Greaves and Eddie Zaragoza. The email is mysterytube, one word, @trps.org. Just set up a separate email just for our prize winners. Thank you.
Did you put a call out for that Patti Smith poster?
No, you're giving away the Patti Smith poster?
Yeah.
All right, we got another prize coming up here. For the Patti Smith poster of Mark, type in Arminski.
That's too long.
And you won't be graded on spelling.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Arminski, yeah, there we go, right.
So, Steve was talking about before I started, I started Silkscreen, then I dug this out to sell my show, but this is an Italio etching that I did.
Oh,
This is
wow.
all engraved into zinc. I use zinc, not copper, but it's all hand, except for the photo etching part of it. But I used to
That's
do
great.
Yeah, I like doing it. I like the line you could get with it. It was all about the line. You could get these really and aqua tints and what other processes? Soft ground, hard ground.
How Mark, tell us about that process. It looks almost like a stone litho kind of process where you acid.
It is. And I took stone litho. I've probably done a little bit of all kinds of printmaking, but you have a zinc plate and you cover it with it's called a ground, but really it's like a wax. And there's a hard ground and the soft ground. And if you use the hard ground, then you draw into it with a little etching needle. And so things like this drawing at the bottom, that's all drawn in with the etching needle. And then you throw it in an acid bath, and where you scrape the ground away, the acid bites down into the plate and makes a little line. And the longer you put it in, the deeper the line gets and the more ink it holds. So if you just flash it, you'll get a real faint line. If you put it in there for a half hour, you get a real deep line and it holds a lot of ink. So that's basically what it is. And then there's a photo technique on there. There's this stuff you dust on there to get an aqua tint, which is kind of how you get their tones. Yeah, rosin. And then you melt it on there. And it all does the same thing. It resists the acid from hitting the plate. And anywhere that the plate's open, the acid hits. I still have all my plates. I probably have done. God, I was really cranking these out for a while. Once I get into something, and to me, again, I would try to use as many different techniques as I could. Oh yeah, there you go. There's a plate, and it's in reverse too. You got to draw it in reverse.
I was cleaning out this desk that I'm sitting at today. Etching is the only printmaking I ever actually studied. I took a year of it in school. My wife, however, took it for 4 years undergrad and then got her master's in it. But I was opening this desk that I'm sitting at, and there was a copper plate in there from our Christmas card from some number of years ago. So that's all etched into this copper plate that's about as thick as a penny. And so anyway, that's something she used to do a whole lot. And,
Is that the actual printing plate itself, or do you
Yeah.
make?
yeah, so
You
a
ink
plate
it up
like
by
this.
hand, you wipe the ink off by, you use your hand and the dauber kind of push the ink in there, and then you soak your paper so it gets kind of damp and wet, and then blot it out, so it's just really damp, and it holds the ink better, and then you run it through a press and print it. You know, that's what people, one thing, you know, when I see people that want, you know, they tell me, well, it's a litho, offset litho where they turn on a press, they crank them out. They want number 1 or 2 because they think it's better. Theoretically, where that comes from is like these etching plates will break down after a while. After running through the press so often, they start to push down and they hold less ink. The lines aren't as sharp, they tend to be dull. So when you're collecting those, you usually want the lower numbers. Silk screen is a little different. Number 1 is the same as number 80.
206, yeah.
Yeah, but when it comes to the lithographs, I think the stones last. I can remember the first time I wasn't even thinking, I went to try to pick up one of those stones and it was a big stone. I was in that, you know, and then I realized, fuck, those things weigh a ton, you know, they're
Picking up a gravestone.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Not that I've done that.
I liked etching. I really liked etching. It was, but I got tired of moving my press around from studio to studio. And then I couldn't, once I finally sold the press, I had 2 jugs of acid I didn't know what to do with.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had someone asking if they could get some, you know, if you guys put your art prints onto T-shirts. And I know that, you know, for a lot of artists, you know, offering T-shirts is kind of part of the business model.
Yeah, I just started doing that since COVID. I mean, yeah, I'm not putting poster art on shirts, but
Who's Jagoff?
Is anybody in Chicago who takes
Me?
your, anybody in Chicago who moves your chair? That's who that is.
right, yeah.
You can't park in your spot, you dug out.
Put ketchup on your hot dog. Fuck you.
Fucking spilled my Italian beef. Jag off. I started last year putting some poster designs onto shirts through Threadless. So I've got a store up at thebirdmachine.threadless.com. But they are, I don't know, they got some sort of robot that prints them on demand. So you can order a light blue shirt in size medium, and they put the stuff, the files that I've sent them, they put them on there. There you go. Look at that.
Are they posters?
Wear a
with the
mask,
band-
you stupid. What?
Are they posters with the band's name or just the illustration?
No, I don't do no band stuff. It's
Okay.
just, it's stuff that's made specifically for T-shirts or some of the art prints that translate. Yeah, you can't get that one in kids' shirts. I don't know why. Maybe you can.
I think the word stupid.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I wouldn't want my
Steve did
daughter.
print his shirt. Girls are what did you get kicked off of Facebook? You got kicked off of Facebook. In Facebook jail. Girls are Steve.
Gross.
There you go.
Yeah.
Put that on a
I
t-shirt.
don't know what that is.
No, it's something I said that I got a 7-day ban for.
Oh, you did. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
It's hate speech.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it is.
Anyway.
I was kidding.
Yeah, so that's the few shirts that I have. Because one thing I learned from Steve is back in the day is that printing shirts is expensive because mistakes are expensive. Like if you're printing shirts for, like, I don't know, some band like the Four Carnation, and you spell the band name wrong or something, or print them in the wrong place on the chest, and then you've got 400 shirts, for example, that you need to reprint. That was this kind of stuff.
If they decide they don't like the color that they told you,
yes, that's
over the phone,
yeah,
color that they described to you over the phone,
yeah,
then
So,
we're not
yeah,
paying from those 300 shirts.
yeah, that sort of stuff is
A lot of money.
very scary to somebody who has to then maintain inventory of stuff like that. Sorry to bring up
I got an interesting
bad.
question for you guys. What's your biggest blunder for a
my
band that actually went to print
Yeah.
and was approved, and then they, it's all done and ready to go, and you realize you did something.
This is actually a question I was going to ask both of you. I think, I mean, I counted at one point, I think I've done 3 typos in 25 years. There's a Chicago club called Shubas. It's great. I went to print once as Scubas. I forgot an H.
I did one where I forgot to put the date on it.
Oh, wow. I did Patti Smith. They were closing a club in New Jersey, and one of the band members cut his teeth on. They were playing there that night, and it was called. We have an area in Detroit called Corktown, and it's kind of where the Irish sit. And it's still a lot of Irish people living there, but it's called Corktown, and the club was Court Tavern. So I sent them the approved, and they approved it, but I spelled it. I was thinking Cork Town. So instead of Court Tavern, I put Cork. I think I put Cork Town, or maybe I put Cork Tavern or something. But it got all printed, and I sent them to them, and they called me up and said, "Mark, there's a little mistake here." And I think they were complete. So I had them send them overnight and back to me. I printed a block of white over the Court Tavern. I think I had to hit it twice to cover it up real good, and then printed the correct thing on there. But that's probably my. I mean, there's a couple I noticed, like a couple. I put cellar door. I put 3 L's in it once.
Yeah.
Well, that's just poetic license.
Yeah. Then there was an alternative. It was a. What was that band? Not 9 Inch Nails, but I can't remember. One of those early kind of goth. I can't categorize music. There's way too many. Too many. So, but anyhow, instead of alternative, whatever the promoter's name was, I left the L out, and it was the term. But nobody noticed. It was fine. And then I'm looking through posters like a couple years later. I'm finding these 2 mistakes in there that I done. So there could be more in there, but.
I did 2 posters for the zombies once, and I misspelled one of the guys' names wrong.
Ooh, that's.
So I had to redo that whole run. Yeah.
I designed.
Helen Blundstone. I put Bluntstone, like Fred Flintstone. They weren't happy about that.
I learned early on. I had one client who's otherwise a great client who brought me a list of the bands that were playing on this particular night, and he of his own volition provided me with bad information. 2 of the bands' names were incorrect, 2 words as opposed to 1 word and whatever. So that instilled in me early on that at the very least, I need to go to whatever band's website to verify how they spell it, whether it's Melvins or the Melvins, for example.
Right.
Stuff like that. That's relatively minor. That was something I figured out early on. Making a typo mistake is different. I got hired by the US Department of Education to do, I think this will be my number 1. I got hired by the US Department of Education bunch of years ago under a different administration. The head of Chicago schools, I want to say, was the cabinet member in the Obama administration for the Department of Education. He was going on a bus tour of the Southwest of the United States, and they wanted me to design the outside of the bus and posters to go along with this. And the whole thing went through, the whole thing was approved. And there were some number of tour dates. And after everything was approved and after the posters had shipped, somebody pointed out that Tucson, Arizona is not spelled that way. The S and the C are the other way around. And the senator from Arizona was unhappy or whatever. And so we actually don't remember how we fixed that, but it was, that was probably the worst one that I've done as far as making a mistake like that. Tucson. Tucson.
Is it spelled Tucson or Tucson?
Well, it's Tucson, but I spelled it I think I spelled it Tuscon.
So
But
it's
it's
spelled like
Ucson.
Yeah,
I think that's
Yeah.
what it was. But nobody noticed until it was too late.
until,
No automatic spell check, huh?
Not when you're drawing in pencil, no. Although sometimes, yeah, you expect that. You look at something and like try and spread it out with your fingers, or it doesn't work.
All right, well, we've got a winner for Mark's Patty Smith poster. It's none other than Leif Erikson,
Oh,
if that is indeed your name.
the explorer.
Well, he is a lucky fellow who's hit gold. I'll say that. Leif, congratulations. Email us at mysterytube, one word, at trps.org. Congratulations. You got a cool Patty Smith poster, I'll tell you. That is a nice piece, Mark.
It's historic. I was honored that they asked me to. She's been real good to me over the years. You know, as many people as I've met, I'm sure you guys too have met a ton of people doing this, and she's the one person I still get nervous around. She's like, she's just not of this earth.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain her. She's just,
Yeah.
I still get, and she's always real nice to me. She's been real good to me. That, you know, she was married to Fred Smith from the MC5, Sonic's Rendezvous Band. They lived here in Detroit, you know, for a long time. And it just, she's, every time I'm around her, I just kind of feel like I'm not worthy. I don't know how to describe it. That's not it. She's just, it goes beyond her talent. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah,
see
when I have my ultimate dinner party, I think I want her there.
She would be a great guest to have.
You know, just someone to hang out and, you know, for an evening.
Well, you know, we were keeping this a secret because it just, because of what it is. But I've been seeing a woman in Japan who I met through posters. She bought some of my artwork 8 years ago. And she sent me a picture of her home, and she had Kozik hanging there and Coop hanging there, all contemporaries, all people I'd done shows with and stuff. So it kind of opened a line of communication between her and I, and it kind of developed into this relationship. So we're in the process of getting her over here, and we're going to get married. But COVID's kind of put a halt to that right now. We filed all the paperwork, and we're just kind of waiting on everything. So I kind of been trying to decide how to have a party, and you guys are invited if you want to come, but we're gonna either Eastern Market or Belle Isle or something, get access to it, and just get all my band friends to come over, and all my friends, and all you know, and just invite everybody and have a huge party. But just talking about Patty Smith, I was talking to Lenny Kay the other night, and he didn't know this was going on, and we started talking about it. He said, "Let me come in and play." So I said, "Yeah, I'd love to have you come in." So we're gonna have a huge party. Hopefully this spring, towards the end of spring, sometime with immigration.
Nice.
Congratulations, Mark. Great news.
Okay.
Very
Thank you.
exciting.
That's great.
But yeah, and she, you know what, she was on a trips with me 2 years ago when I was out there.
Yeah.
You probably, yeah, you were there that year.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. I said, because she's been coming twice a year. So I said, instead of coming to Detroit, meet me in San Francisco. So
Yeah, I don't remember if I met her or not, though. I remember her being there, though.
yeah. So
That's great.
be nice.
Okay, guys, I guess we got to finish it up with the one serious topic, the one everyone's been wanting to know about. Jay, you are a connoisseur of glass cutters.
Is that really true? Is that true?
You have like 30.
If anyone is.
Inquiring minds want to know, man.
Really? I mean, that's one of those things where, you know, you make one comment 20 years ago, and then everybody they assume, you know, that you just like have glass cutters around all the time in front of you on your desk. You know, ones that came from your grandfather's workbench, you know, wood handles, pretty crazy. If you can see that, you can't see that. Some
Yeah,
cool
that's
stuff.
cool.
Anyway, yeah, so I mean, I think that, you know, this sort of, that's just not cool that rumors like that follow people around for decades. But, you know, I just, it's not fair. So hold on a second. Yeah, I got it. Hold on.
Was that real?
It's just my walkie-talkie. It's cool.
Oh,
Yeah, so you know, you make one comment online 20 years ago and then people reprint it, and then I still get people, I get guys who have written books on glass cutters who will write me periodically, pointing out that they would like me to buy their book, or they perhaps they've heard that I've got a great collection of glass cutters and they'd like to buy the entire collection. When it's, you know, it's you know, 10 glass cutters from the 1960s in a mug on my desk, but that's the power of the
If you
internet.
Google
That's what
glass
brings us all
cutters,
together.
you're the third result.
I'm the third. What? What'd you call them?
If you Google glass cutters, you come up third.
third. So Steve, what do you collect? Do you collect anything?
Herpes.
What? I mean, records. I collect a lot of things. I've been trying to collect mouse traps.
Whoa.
There's some good ones.
Used.
I can get you my favorite one. Just a sec.
Oh God, what did I start here?
Yeah. Wait,
You see that?
how do we, oh, there we go. That's a big
Four-way.
mouse.
That's
Oh,
a
it's a rat
four-way
trap.
That's a
rat
nice
trap.
one. That's a nice. Yeah, it's a rat trap. Yeah,
But it's a
But
four-way.
four-way. Four-way can't miss.
Four-way.
I really only see one way, but
Oh.
it's all about the marketing.
Huh.
Cool.
Yeah. So records and rat traps. How about you, Mark?
Uh, all kinds of stuff, probably like a little bit of everything, but lately kind of bones and taxidermy. I've got, my house is like a zoo. I have a coyote that kind of sits by my front door and it's so real looking. I had people come to my door and then step back because they think it's real. And my dog used to, if I would leave her alone in the house, and she never bothered anything. If I had piles of paper on the floor, she'd walk around. She never bothered anything. But I'd come home and she'd be lying next to the coyote and her toy would be in the coyote's arms. Probably trying to figure out, why isn't this thing playing with me? I can imagine she would pick up that toy and place it there 3 or 4 times and just wonder why it's never playing with her. But yeah, for some reason, bones, I think, from anatomy and medical stuff. I got a lot of strange stuff. Just
My dad was a veterinarian. And
what?
one day he brought home cat fetuses in a
Oh, wow.
ragu. It's in a ragu jar.
And that's liquid in there?
Yeah, it's alcohol or
Yeah.
formaldehyde.
I
or
don't
something.
like
I've had them since I was like 3rd grade.
Wow. Is that ever evaporated or anything?
No, it's sealed.
I just like that
your
it's close
dad
at
was a
hand.
veterinarian?
This is the next raffle.
Yeah, there you go. Your
Cat
dad,
fetuses that
You
I've had
type
since.
rat fetus.
did you say your dad was a veterinarian?
Yeah.
My dad was a proctologist.
I don't want to see what you have in a jar.
Yeah.
Jay, your glass cutters are looking more and more normal by the minute.
I was gonna say that's sort of an old thing. I think I was trying to think of if I actually collect anything right now. I don't think I'm actively collecting anything, although I guess I'm actively holding on to all the yardsticks that fall into my possession,
Oh, yeah.
which is
Yeah,
kind of a
that's a
weird
good
thing,
one.
but
That's a good one.
it's one of those things where I looked around my space and I was like, well, I got to put this into place. And you put the yardstick into place and you find another one, you put it with the first one, and suddenly you got like 15 yardsticks. And then you go home and there's 8 more in the garage, and you put them all together and you're like, I guess I accidentally have a collection of yardsticks. Now I've got like this, I got a 8-inch mailing tube near one of my light tables at the shop, and it's filled with yardsticks. And at some point they're going to get all screwed to a wall or something like that, or thrown out or burnt. No, I think I'm at the stage where I'm actively trying to get rid of my collections to a large degree.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's why we're doing that show. And there's certain things I'm going to keep and try to incorporate in the house. But a lot of it, I collected a lot of religious, for some reason. Oh, and it's interesting to find out how I've collected a lot of old, and I had a fascination with this stuff. Probably the posters that got me interested in was old fraternal lithographs that are like from the 1800s, late 1800s, because of the, they're like posters.
Yeah.
They're all ornate engravings in them. So I've got a ton of those that I look for. Now they've gotten so expensive, I just can't afford to, I don't look for them anymore because they've gotten real expensive. But I think that kind of came from the poster thing. And then posters, of course, I have a lot of posters. But
Mark, am I hearing there's a poster show March 7th up in Michigan?
What it is, it's a WCSX, which is kind of the rock station here in Detroit, puts on a rock and roll swap meet. So it's a lot of vinyl. There's posters there. Carl Lundgren used to do it, whether he's going to do it or not. Lenny Sinclair, Laura Grimshaw used to come and do it with Gary stuff. I don't know whether she'll be there this year. Todd Hinden will be there. He's coming in from New York to sell some of his posters. And but like I said, it's a lot of vinyl, and it's just a one-day thing. That's why with COVID, I'm gonna, and I'll have my shot by then. I have my first shot, which is nice. So I feel comfortable. I've done a couple things this summer that were kind of socially distanced. You're behind a table, everybody's wearing a mask, and they're only letting so many people in. And so yeah, that's the 7th, I think, 7th or 6th, Saturday.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of hoping for the best out here at some point this year, but it's all really uncertain.
Yeah, I think everywhere.
Late fall at the earliest. I mean, maybe we can get a show in by the end of the year. Just kind of all depends.
Yeah. Would it be the Hall of Flowers one or that other one you guys do?
It kind of depends. If it's something where people can start to get together but are afraid to really travel,
yeah,
we might do just an artist thing, because we've got a great spot in Alameda now at Faction Brewing Company.
Okay.
Great big building that they give us to use, and a really good place for a show. Lots of light, good beer.
I'd love to come in. I miss the trip shows. I miss you guys. I miss California. I miss you guys. It's just that was always a really great show.
Well, if we can't do it this year, we'll be, we're not going anywhere. We'll be doing it in the future, and we started doing these things as a stopgap, but they're so much fun that I think we're probably going to keep doing them even after the in-person stuff opens up again.
Now, I meant to ask you, Marty, the Wes Wilson shows, the poster expo ones, there were three or four, I think.
I think 3.
Were those? Did your trip shows come out of that, or was that not the same people, but was it just
indirectly? That was Wes Wilson started doing that,
and Ron Schaefer
along with Ron Schaefer, who was just on here. I think he just signed off.
Okay.
But Wes and Ron did those for a while. Trip started in '98. Started small, and then did their first show at the Hall of Flowers. Just kind of picked up the torch.
Yeah.
And
then there were the hall. What was the American Music Hall? What was
there was a show at the that was
two of them, I think there.
That was I think there was just one. That was Mark Powers and Ben Comans.
Okay.
did that thing at the great, that was early 90s, I think.
Yeah. And then there was a show down in San Mateo I would come to, the record show.
That was a whole different kind of thing.
Like a flea market and a record show, antique show.
Yeah, well, the posters have been a big deal in the Bay Area since the 60s. And for a lot of people, it never really went away.
Yeah.
And then, and then at some point, enough people who kind of wanted to start a little club, got some things together, and Dennis King was part of that. And and Trips was born, did some small things, did some slightly bigger things, and then we just kind of grew from there.
Well, you guys have been great. I mean, it's just
Thank you.
I keep on my show, I keep pushing, I say, if you don't know about trips.org, go check them out and join it. And I know I said this last time, that it's well worth the admission, because you get a cool t-shirt and a bunch of handbills from you guys.
That's right.
The t-shirt alone, not to take away from what you guys do and what you promote and whatever, but if you're never going to go out there, you're not going to be able to go to California, and you just for the t-shirt alone, you should join. And you're still doing a newsletter. You're still doing a newsletter.
Yeah, well, we're going to have a newsletter out within, it's almost done. As soon as I get the last article written.
Yeah, well, not much to write about.
I think Carolyn's waiting on me to get that last article. We'll have one out. We've been a little bit remiss, but even with everybody locked down, we've still been busy, and a lot of our time has gone into this. A lot has gone into our Artist Relief Trust charitable efforts. Yeah. We've been able to help a lot of people out through that. Everybody watching, we encourage you to become a TRPS member if you're not. If you were and your membership is lapsed, please renew. Support the Artist Relief Trust. Guys, Steve Walters, Mark Arminski, Jay Ryan, you guys are a kick in the pants.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Really enjoyed it. Maybe next year in San Francisco or some point.
Yeah.
We'll see, but we will stay in touch. Thank you so much for your generous prizes.
Thank you.
A pleasure. Thank you for
As
having
soon
us.
as I can, I'm going to get out to Chicago, see you guys. That's a good road trip for me.
We got plenty of room at the house if you need a place to stay.
I'm going to wait till I get both my shots in and wait a little while.
Yeah.
Be in the spring.
Yep.
Cool. Well,
Great
Marty,
to talk.
thanks again.
Great to talk with you guys. Thanks so much for being part of this and your support.
And Nick and John and everybody who helps out, you guys do a great job.
Thanks to our team. Yeah, we got a great
Thank you,
team.
Mark. Thanks to the whole team. Keep setting things
All
up.
right, everybody. Take care. See you again soon.
Hey, good seeing you.
Have a good
Marty,
night.
thanks.
Yeah.